introduce my friend, my boss, and my colleague. A very, very wonderful friend. When we get together, we joke a lot and we trouble ourselves. Mrs. Tosin Alexander-Idowu. She is the lead consultant HR of Alistair Green Limited, a people process management consulting firm that is based in Lagos. She brings to the team over a decade of wealth of experience in hands-on HR practice and leading HR-related projects. She's an interesting extrovert and creative thinker with a great taste for learning and knowledge sharing. She is an MBA graduate of the prestigious Lagos Business School with a background in the medical sciences. She's a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, NCIPM, and a student member of Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. With a passion for human capital development and a strong interest in building processes. Over the last couple of years, in her consulting role as HR business partner with expertise in leading HR restructuring and transformation, organizational development, and process management, she has worked with both SMEs and large companies like Lock Homes Limited, Lock Facility Management, Newton and David, and Danone Nutrition, amongst others. Drawing from her entrepreneurial experience, she has keen insights into the dynamics of the business world and is able to offer hands-on, realistic solutions to business problem areas. She is also very involved in community development initiatives and serves on the board of a not-for-profit organization. Interestingly, we got the first engagement I had with her was she was working with a not-for-profit organization. She is a wonderful person, a beautiful friend, a lovely wife, and a troublesome colleague. Can you please welcome with me this afternoon, Mrs. Tosin Alexander-Idowu? Madam T.
I like the troublesome part. I don't know why all my friends say I'm troublesome.
Your voice, you're sounding a bit far from your microphone. Please come closer. Don't hang on to us. Let us feel you.
How is it?
Getting better, but can still be better.
Okay. Wow. Let me just take my here.
Can we all hear that?
Are we? Can you hear me now?
Yes, okay. You're very loud now. Yes.
I'm very loud.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay. Thank you
You
very
can
much.
share your screen now.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and well done for the work that you are doing, my friend. And I want to appreciate all the participants. I hope it's been worth your while thus far being on this journey with the BRT Consult. Okay, so today I will try to keep this as engaging as possible, and of course myself and Kayode will be doing this together, right? So I would want us to engage. I heard a number of us say that we did not really read up. So I hope that in the period that we would engage, at least it will give you some fair overview of what performance management is, and then that would help you to decide. Can you see my screen now? Not yet. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
You can see my screen?
No, not yet.
Oh, not yet. Okay. Um, I just got to learn the use of this tool this morning. So I am going to be navigating my way around it.
Have
Okay.
you found the icon?
Yes.
Where the icon is? All right.
I've got it there.
You know, the first thing is put your slides in presentation mode. Then use your
Yeah.
tab up to now go back to your Telegram tab and
Yes,
pick
I've
the
seen it now.
yeah.
I think I've seen it now. But it's just coming on to sorry, please give me a moment. Let me know when you can see the screen, please.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. It was taking time to refresh up, right? On here. Can you see the screen
We
now?
can see your slides, but not in presentation mode yet.
I'm not in presentation mode. Okay. So I think what was happening was there was some form of delay um, in it picking up the presentation bit. So I'm going to try that again. Okay, so let me use that to also say that just like with every other area of HR, you need to understand that when you are an HR practitioner, you must be willing to keep learning. You would have challenges every time. You would have challenges every time on the job that will require you to keep thinking of new ways to improve your knowledge, to improve your skills and your abilities as a practitioner. So that is the reality, especially in the light of current technological advancement in the world. Okay, so that being said, Kayode, can we do something? Let me drop this very quickly with you. Then if I'm able to get a hang of it.
All right, that's fine.
That's fine, yes. Okay. All right. I just sent it to you. Aha.
You receive. You can stop sharing your screen. Let me share the presentation.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead.
1 minute. Well,
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you very much. All right. So you would say I would appreciate that everyone at some point, or I guess you can feel free to share or speak up when you need to speak up, so that we make this very conversational. So when you think about performance management, right, uh, there are a number of things that would come to mind. So I thought this image would help anyone that is thinking performance management, right? To, of course, there are broader areas than this, but all of these elements are elements that you would see um, integrated into performance management. I like to say that performance management is very central and it's very critical to the HR function. For me, I want to see it as the fulcrum of everything that we do in HR, right? Because ultimately, business, business, the business requires HR practitioners to ensure that everyone within the organization is delivering, right? Like Sammy, I think it was Sammy that was giving us an overview. The whole essence of having a business, the whole essence of having an enterprise is for the people within the business to be able to come and do some performance, right? So think of performance as they talk about stage performance. We're all in one way performing, meaning we're acting, we're doing, we're getting something done, right? So that whole system, that whole process of ensuring that when anyone comes into an organization, from the very first day they resume till the very time when they leave the organization, we want to ensure that you are checking, you are helping, you are supporting, you are coaching, you are doing everything necessary, right, to enable that individual, to enable that employee perform on the job. So you see, I'm just going to just look at the number of elements here. So we see performance management has to do with feedback. It has to do with employees. We've said that. It's an HR or partly, I will get to that part, but it's partly an HR function. It is not wholly an HR function, right? Performance management in the sense of it is actually broader. It's a broad management function that HR practitioners have a large part in playing. Okay? All right? It is about objectives. It is about goals. It is about planning. It's about the direction of the business. It's about ensuring that, right, there is constant communication. It's about supervision. It's about training. It's about setting priorities. It's about ensuring that everyone in the team is committed to the objectives that have been set. It's about continuously giving feedback to the entire system, being an organization. It's also about review, right? Meaning constant monitoring, constant checking. For performance management, to be on track or to be in check, right? Goals that are set must be measurable, right? And at the end of the day, after someone, right, the outcomes of performance management is that there is some form of reward and some form of promotion, right? So that all of this in a nutshell. So in the 7 weeks that everyone here has been engaging, I'm sure a number of these words, right, you are very familiar with it. In your outline, I know you have done something around training already, right? You've done stuff around understanding what job descriptions are and things like that. And so now the whole program itself is a coaching program, right? And then I know at some point they're going to be looking at reward. management as a function in HR. So if you're thinking performance management, you're thinking about all this together. Give me the next slide, sir. Okay. All right. So in looking at performance management also, you need to also understand that there's a strategy to it. It's a process. This is a bit incomplete here, but I can speak to it. It is a cycle. There are tools to use for performance management, right? And there are frameworks in performance management. Now, I know that this spectrum of audience is in you have different categories, but I want to assume that anyone here is between 0 to 5 years in their HR career. So meaning some of us that are probably new into HR and some of us are already HR practitioners and the whole journey like that. So in thinking about any of the functions of HR, it's important for you to understand that every of those functions have principles behind them, they have philosophies behind them, there are processes behind them, there's a strategy behind them. A number of them, like the performance management, has a cycle which Sammy spoke to. I don't want to focus and belabor the books and things that you've read. I just want to speak generally to performance management, and then we'll make this very conversational, and people will share their experiences and would ask questions, and then we can move on from there. Okay. All right. So if you have not read, so that is to say, if you have not gone back to your Armstrong chapter of performance management after this session, right, it would not be out of place to go back. In fact, the reality is that all through, even as you grow on the journey, at the moment, performance management might not even be something that you're doing, because industry-wise, and when a lot of times for a number of HR practitioners, a number of them don't get to really have hands-on experience when it comes to performance management until, depending on the organization though, and where that business is and the opportunities that is open to the practitioner. But a number of people do not really get their hands into this whole performance management function until maybe they are 3 years or 5 years into the journey, right? So for those of us that have experience in performance management, I'd like to hear from you when I'm done, some of your experiences and maybe some of the challenges, and then we can speak to it so that the people that are coming will also learn. Okay? Give me the next slide, sir. I think that's where I'm going to sit a lot more. All right, great. Okay, so for this session and the time that we have, this would be the very core of what I would like to speak to, helping us as HR practitioners to understand that when you're thinking and talking performance management, you are not just looking at it from one side, right? The performance management, yes, like I mentioned, is an HR function, but is a broader management function. And if there's anything you will take away from this few minutes of my engagement, and so that will help you even as you read, is to see, and I think I already also alluded to it, that there's a key word in performance management, and that key word is alignment, right? What are you aligning to? You have to be aligning to what the business is, where the business is going, or what the objectives of the business are. So meaning, you cannot take performance management in a silo and say that I am HR and I am just doing employee performance management, which a lot of people are focused on, which they know, right? And they're not seeing the big picture. So what we're going to be doing today is to see, let's look at the broad spectrum of performance management, and let's see what it entails, right? Like I mentioned earlier, It is both an HR function, it sits largely in HR, but much more than that, it is actually a management and a board function, right? So there is something called corporate or enterprise performance, and it is that corporate and enterprise performance that really sets the pace, that really determines, that really gives you the north of whatever you're going to do when it comes to your employee performance, right? For a number of businesses, a number of companies, they have dissociated these two. A number of unstructured companies, which unfortunately most businesses in Nigeria, or let me say a few businesses in Nigeria, are not as structured in the way they ought to be structured. And so they leave, when you talk about performance management, they leave it all totally to HR, and they say performance management is HR. And they think that performance management is appraisals. Performance management is not appraisals. Appraisal is just one component, it's just one thing, one element, one of the things that you do in the entire performance management system, right? I heard Sammy say when he was giving his, you heard that. When he was giving his introduction, he said performance management is not a system. Sammy, I bet to disagree with you. Performance management is actually a system. An entire system that has many parts, many components. And in my earlier slide, I mentioned, it has strategy, it has tools, it has elements, it has a cycle, it's a process, there are principles to it. So you cannot think of, when you think system, you need to think performance management, right? That is a whole cycle, it's a whole interconnected, there's a whole lot of interconnectedness when it comes to performance management. And that is what is going to be our focus. So what does the enterprise performance look like, right? What does it look like? It's also called strategic performance management, and it's focusing on the performance of the entire organization, right? Not necessarily alone on the performance of the people within the organization. It is about the entire organization, right? It can be described as that set of management processes that help organizations define and execute the strategy. So if a business decides that we're going to go into what's the name? We're going to go into pure water or bottled water manufacturing, right? As a business, as an enterprise. Then we'll begin to ask ourselves, right? Or begin to define and say, okay, in this business, this is what is going to be our strategy for us to survive in this business, not just survive, go beyond surviving and move into thriving in the business, right? And we go beyond thriving and say, okay, we want to become a sustainable business. And that whole gamut of the entire life cycle of the business and what they intend to do, how they're going to define, they're going to execute their strategy, how they're going to measure, how they're going to ensure that everything that they have set out to do, right, is in alignment. That is the entire scope of corporate or enterprise performance, right? Now, a key part of that, like I said, is the people part. But remember, it's not just people alone that make organization, right? There is no, if that company sets itself, right, it's going to need customers. Those customers need to be managed, right? The performance of the customers need to be managed, right? Now, that same pure water company is going to require, since it's going to be in the manufacturing space, it's going to require machines, right? Now, if you look at it from a broad perspective, machines and customers in quote, right? One part is internal, another part is external. That does not necessarily be they not necessarily directly, and I want to put that in quote, directly impact on HR as a function. However, because it impacts the business, because it is the business, then indirectly or consequentially, HR must be at the center of that to understand what is happening. Okay, so the focus of corporate performance management is on strategic performance improvements, all sorts of processes, measuring performance, analyzing performance, reporting, and ensuring that an aligning to the organization's people to its culture. Now, give me the next slide so that I can take the whole work of, and then I come back to people performance. Give me the next slide. Oh, I apologize. I must have sent you the wrong shit. Okay, go back. I'll just speak to it and then I come back here. Go back. Yes, go back. Okay. All right. All right. So when you're looking at corporate performance, there was a part there that I must have sent him the wrong shit. All right. So in the corporate and corporate and enterprise performance, the things that we're looking at in that area would be things around, KPIs, analytics, the budgeting process, forecasting, benchmarking, enterprise risk management, right? Performance and project. Okay. Okay. Sorry, a moment, please. Give me a moment, please. Okay. So we're looking at the business excellence models, right? Issues of Six Sigma and things like that. And, and the entire gamut of every other aspect of the corporate performance of the business. Okay. So now, having that as your broad scope and having that knowledge, and I usually encourage professionals that are HR professionals that are coming on board to not become siloed in their thinking, because a lot of people think that HR is very soft. HR is about it's about employee relations alone. It's about welfare, right? It's about, I like working with people. I like talking with people. Yes, you must like working and talking with people. No doubt about that. But you also must be okay. Now let me put it in two categories. So if you think about psychology, so they talk about the thinking, right, and the feeling. There are some people that are more analytical in their personality, right? They are more of the thinking people, and there are more people that are the feeling people. So you will see that a lot of people that have a kind of affiliation to HR or have a desire to go to HR, they are more of the feelers. So they like people, they like talking, they think HR is just about fefferity and things like that. But you all need to understand that if you're going to be an HR professional, you must be able to balance both thinking and feeling. In your personality, if you are just say hi to people, greet people, check people in the hospital, all of those things are as much as good as they are. If the business is not directly feeling the impact of you as a practitioner, in able to speak the language of the business, in able to understand what the business requires, and it is in all these things. If you look at these things now, they're talking about budgeting, forecasting, benchmarking. These are areas that the HR will wonder, excuse me, what's our problem with? But hey, the HR of now and the future is the HR that understands finance, is the HR that is very tech inclined, is the HR that understands, productions and operations, is the HR that just understands the entire, what does a business require? What does a business need? And that's what HR is. And so when you're looking at this subject of performance management, you cannot, I must repeat that, you cannot think alone of people or employee performance. It is just one aspect. And it must always be aligned with the corporate or enterprise performance. If you silo your people performance from your enterprise performance, I can almost bet you that the business would not see the value the way it ought to be seen. But if you're able to align and understand where management is coming from, where the board of directors are coming from, what they are seeing, and you're able to tailor or align your employee performance management process, right, and the entire works, you're able to align it to where the business is going, then you can almost be certain that that value will be appreciated. Please go up, go to the next, to the previous slide. Let me take the leg of employee and people performance. Previous slide, please. Yes, thank you. All right, so the people and employee performance is all the buckets, all the things that you have read in your Armstrong, right? So this is like a summary. So all of those pages and the whole chapter of performance management, if you compress it, I just compress it into this, right? So what is the focus here? The focus here, right, in the employee performance is on the people within the organization, right? It is about the people within the organization. And the aim is to ensure that everyone is contributing to the goals of the organization as a whole. All right, so it is therefore, and you see that word again, it is that, and if there's any word you take out of here when you think about performance, you want to ask yourself, is my learning, is my understanding, is my practice of performance management, is there an alignment? It is about aligning the performance of the employees with what? With the performance or the improvement of performance of the corporate performance. There must be an alignment. Alignment. So the people performance is that term, that just takes the entire process of ensuring that the goals are set, right? Everybody, the individuals within the organization, they have their goals all crafted out, aligned with the corporate goals. The measures and the targets are clear, and everyone is constantly being supported and being helped, as it were, to ensure that they are doing well, right? It's also, like I think Sammy also said, that because you will always see that there may be gaps in the performance of people. Part of performance management is that you identify those gaps, during your performance review processes, meetings, and the sessions that you have. You're able to identify those areas of competencies that needs improvement, by the employee or required improvement of the employee, and then you're able to put them on a plan, on a development plan that would help them subsequently 2-3 sessions or months or cycles after that you can see an improvement there. All right, give me the next slide, please, Steph. All right, so in the people of employee performance leg, right? These are the ones that the above us are probably familiar with, right? The tools that are commonly used here, your appraisals, your reward recognition systems, your personal development plans, you set targets, and then you have your review meetings, you have your forms and your tools that you use to engage, the people the employees within the business. All right. So I like at this point I want to take take 5, maybe 5 minutes and hear anyone that has something to say, make a comment on what they have heard, maybe what is the word now? Compared to what they have read or what they have known or what they have practiced in the organization. So anyone willing to say something around performance management so far?
Okay, ma'am. May I want to say something? Thank you.
Okay, Sammy.
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's been quite an expository class. At least this has also reinforced my learning So what's going through the book, that part of the under the principle, I remember saying performance, how managers manages people. That is not a system. Some way I wasn't really comfortable. I was going to ask the same question in class here, but you're learning. I mean, you're teaching now, and then bringing us down. It's actually a whole component, and all are intertwined. That I can see the link and chain to the whole processes. So at least that has also given me a readjustment in that is actually a system as against what I saw from previous. So that also a way of reinforcing my learning, and this has also exposed me more to the whole process of the performance activity, and that underlining one, the alignment is actually in the alignment. Of course, everybody have everything to contribute to your value chain, you're coming, but then we're an organization for a common purpose, for a common goal. So how we can align what we are doing to ensure that we're taking the organization to where it wants to be, 25 years, long term, short term, as the case may be, that we're not working in silo. Yeah, that's the basic thing.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you so much, Sammy. All right, great. Thank you. Any other thoughts, contributions? I want to call Caleb. Caleb, are you here? Caleb.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Caleb. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great. I like your profile picture.
Oh, thank you very much.
So that's to poke you to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, well, yes. Okay, so, well, that was also a very expository one by you. Thank you very much for that enlightening discourse on performance management. Yeah, so I totally agree with everything you said. And for me, what's practicable in my organization is, okay, so I was also thinking that we were going to highlight on maybe some of the performance management systems. Okay, or maybe talk about KPIs, OKRs, NBOs, and then how they can be deployed.
Caleb, Caleb, maybe it's I can't. Your volume is a bit low. Can you increase it slightly? I was struggling to hear you.
Okay, all right. Can you hear me better now?
It's better now, sir. Thank you.
Oh, hello. Am I still on?
Yes, you're still on.
So I think it's my network interfering right now.
Okay, but I can hear you and it's a bit louder.
I can hear you now, Caleb.
Yeah.
Hello, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
It's a lot better now, right?
Yes.
All right. So I was actually appreciating you for that exposition on performance management, right? And then I was
Hello, Caleb. Sorry, can you stay closer to your voice? When you started speaking, you began to sound very far away from your microphone. Just get a bit closer to the microphone.
Are you using earpiece or something? If you're using earpiece, it could also result as a result of that earpiece. This feedback could be as a result of the earpiece.
All right. Hello, can you hear me
now? Okay, let's try. Let's try. Go ahead. Okay, while Caleb is trying to fix that, any other person wants to just add? Is Bidemi here? Yetunde, Tosin. Can you guys hear me?
Can hear you. Here.
Okay.
Right. Can anyone hear me now? I will know it better now.
Yes, Caleb, go ahead, please.
Okay, sincere apologies. Okay, I think that was my earpiece, my headset interfering. But is it better now?
Far better, far better. Go ahead, sir.
Very well, very well. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that exposition on performance management. Yeah, I learned a lot, okay, from what you have just taught on. And I have a question to ask, but then for me in my company, you asked that we share an experience, right, or what's obtainable with various spaces. Okay, so
Caleb is gone again. Okay, Caleb, maybe I should give you some time to sort that out while I quickly round off, and then we can go all back to the um, giving everyone opportunity to share. All right, please give me the next slide. Okay, so when you hear performance management, there are a number of frameworks that are out there, right? The most common ones being the BSC, which is the Balance Scorecard Framework. And then more recently, in the last few years, you have heard of, or if you haven't, this is an opportunity to go and read up on some of these things. Like I mentioned earlier, for the next how many years of the journey, you will keep learning and keep improving your knowledge around these issues of performance management, right? But just as intro and to kind of help with you just knowing, getting familiar with the terminologies, because some of these things are a whole lot of knowledge and disciplines on their own. All right, so your balance scorecard, which is your BSC, which is at the bottom of this my slide, I just thought to put it up for us. So BSC is the balance scorecard. OKRs, read vertically, is objectives and key results, right? And then the KPIs, I guess, is the one that a number of us are a lot familiar with, which is key performance indicators. All right, so the balance scorecard and OKRs are frameworks in themselves, and then they have KPIs as like in each of them or both of them, you will see KPIs as a common denominator. So I would want to encourage you. This session is not about me drilling down into balance scorecard and OKRs, right? But it's for you to become aware of common tools. But let me say here that these tools, both the balance scorecard framework and the OKR framework, can actually be both used simultaneously, can be integrated depending on the industry, depending on the company, and what you intend to achieve. So when you're thinking about performance management frameworks or tools to measure corporate performance and corporate performance and employee performance, you may want to think and read up the balance scorecard framework. The balance scorecard framework has 4 perspectives, and those perspectives are the financial perspective, it has the learning and development perspective, it has the customer perspective, and it has the internal business process perspective. Now, in practice, for most people, both Nigeria and globally, right? They have the Norton and David, the propagators or the people, the two men that put up that framework. There has been a number of variants or variations depending on the industry. So those four perspectives are not cast, as it were, in stone, right? The industry and the organization will determine how and which other perspectives of focus to them, right? And then they can always imbibe it. But the bottom line is clear. Organizations must have set of goals, they must have set of objectives that they want to achieve. And in achieving that, right, there are certain things that they would then begin to consider to say how are we going to get to where we need to get to, and how are we going to manage and monitor the entire performance of our system, inclusive of our employees, to ensure that we are on track with regards to where we need to be as a business. Okay, I think I have a last slide, and then I can yield the floor to Coyote and to the rest of the audience for us to just engage. All right, so just a few more thoughts around performance management framework. So in that whole cycle, like I mentioned earlier, right, you want to think about, there has to be the beginning of it, is that you want to set clear goals, right? So there is that part of the goal setting where you identify what are your key results, what are the key indicators, what are the targets, what are the competencies and the things that you want to achieve. And then as those goals are set, of course, there is a period in which you begin to execute, you begin to work out the things. So everybody, the machine begins to run. Everybody comes on a daily basis. We keep moving. We keep moving in the direction, depending on the different functional areas that we find ourselves. And everyone is aligned towards those goals that have been set. And then that would then require us to keep monitoring to say, hey, for these goals that were set, how do we monitor the performance? So we establish the monitoring system that provides us the regular and timely feedback. One of the, if I were to go to the balance scorecard and the OKRs that I mentioned earlier, one of the things that have given the OKRs more, how will I describe it now, more has been favored, if I would say that, it's been favored over the balance scorecard, right? In recent times is the nature of the frequency, right, or the regularity of its feedback. For the OKRs, right, it's required that there is more regular feedbacks, more regular sessions with the teams on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis, as opposed to the balance scorecard that usually looks at an entire year, or at best a 6-month period of evaluation, right? So that is why over time, a number of performance management experts have decided to say, hey, we cannot stick to one framework. Let's have a hybrid of both the balance scorecard framework. In fact, some even have still part of it imputed the 360 degrees, and to just have something rounded for the organization. So monitoring, the bottom line of my point is that you have to keep monitoring the progress that you're making as a person, monitor the progress you're making as an organization, and you have a system put in place there. And then you want to think about, as the journey goes on, you want to say, how do we develop capacity for us to perform? And that's where your learning and development interventions come in, right? Not like this says, not limited to training alone, coaching, right? Mentoring, on the job rotation, job expansion, and all of those things. Those are capacity development opportunities or options to enable employees to perform, or to develop their capacity to perform. And then after all of that development has happened, you want to then objectively evaluate, right, the performance of not just the business, right, of the employees within the business. And then based on that evaluation, you want to put out what would be your reward, or establish your reward and recognition to say, hey, this persons are aligned, this employees are doing well in the business, and they'll be rewarded for their high performance. These ones are not doing as much, and so they'll be rewarded at this level. And then you're able to segment your employees based on their performance levels. Okay? Like I said, this was just to be a wrap, and then I'll hear you talk. I don't know if Caleb, you have been able to sort out your your network and your mic issue so that you can speak up. I was interested in hearing your experience. Thank you very much. Hi, Ade. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that's my last slide. Yes.
My Oga at the top. Sincerely, thanks for your time and your contribution and the dimension you brought to it. But you see, for me, it's not about me teaching. But one thing I've been able to agree with you from the very beginning, which I also mentioned at the beginning, is actually about creating platform or systems for alignment. Every employee has an expectation and has a career aspiration, and the organization has its own as well. Performance management system simply focuses on how to see how the aspirations of individual employees comes to fit into the strategic aspirations or objectives of the business. And whatever you are doing, it doesn't have to be a complex or complicated process. I guess the major problem we have about performance management in this part of the world is that we think that if it is too simple, it cannot be effective. So we just want to do something because we say, oh, that's global best practice. But don't forget, all through this program, we've always said that it's not about best practice. It's about organizational best fit. That thing that is working in the US, how can you take what worked in the US or what worked in company A, tweak it on the peculiarity of your organization and see how it works. Then when she was talking about a balance scorecard, the KPIs and the OKRs, and at some point she said, oh, there are times that there are systems, you see them that they are using they complement one another, and that is the truth. Because really, the balance scorecard is a strategic tool to provide strategic direction. It's not something that changes every now and then. And one interesting thing about the balance scorecard is it can be so technical that it can be confusing.
Yeah.
And because of that, and it requires a lot of attention, so people run away from it. Because four main domains, we call them 4 perspectives. Begins to focus on your customers, focuses on your internal operations, your learning and development, and your financial perspective. And all the is to identify critical objectives or goals or targets for the company. So under your the financial perspective, we want to achieve a 25% improvement on last year's performance. And so what you do is you go back to last year's performance. So we did 1 billion naira last year. So our target this year is 1.25 billion naira. And that's what the balance scorecard will tell you. But when you now begin to bring it down to the level of OKR, it begins to like, okay, for us to achieve that, can we identify some milestones? Now, those milestones are brought down. Then from every milestone, you begin to extract what are those indicators we can attach to Tina's job. What are those indicators we can attach to Oluwatosin's job? That when we combine all those indicators together, they are able to help us achieve this that we're looking at. And by the time you look at your balance scorecard is what is being monitored at the top. And you know, some of the things she showed in the CPM is the dashboard, the analytics, right? And all that the balance scorecard speaks to is a lot of analytics. Show me the dashboard. This is what we set out to achieve. Show me we're achieving it. See, the other part of how we're achieving it is taken away from that level and it is pushed down as it goes down the ladder. And that's why performance management is an integrated approach. It's not something that someone just sits on. The point of setting KPIs for members of your team, everybody has to be engaged. But whatever you are setting must connect to whatever is coming from the top. And that's the summary of what I've been able to get from whatever she's done today. Any tool you now use thereafter. Of course, we know there's balance OKR. There's behaviorally anchored rating scale. She mentioned 360 degrees. There's a whole lot of tools. But be careful not to be too much in a haste because you just found it. You just need to know which tool can perfectly fit into your system and exploit it. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be simple, easily understandable, and easily implementable for everyone in the system. The reason performance management systems fail in this part of the world is we see it as a wow project and not as a project that should be simple for everybody to understand. And I'm sure that Tosin will confirm with me, most of your clients, when it comes to the area of performance management, a lot of times there's always an argument. There's always this gap somewhere, if I'm right, Tosin, because everybody's mindset is totally different. But if you are going to be a good HR person who will be able to design something simple, the first question I always ask is, do you have a competency framework? If you don't have a competency framework for various job groups or categories in your organization, you begin to realize that your expectations of people to a great extent may not be realistic. It may be mere wishes. But when you design competency frameworks, for every profession, there are competency frameworks that have been designed. But you can come up with a simple framework for your organization that can be all-inclusive. And once you have that, it becomes very, very interesting. And sincerely, I want to say thank you. But I have a question. Why do we reward performance? That's the question I have for everybody. I need one or two people to respond. Why do you think we reward performance? Or why should performance be rewarded?
Yeah.
Why? Who is talking? Who is saying something?
Oh, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Ogolua.
I really learned a lot. So why? I guess.
Yeah. You are breaking up. We can barely hear you.
Okay, I said to encourage them for what they have done, and also let them do better than what they have done before.
Okay, to encourage people. Okay, that's the central message.
Do better
Go ahead.
they have done
To
before.
make them do better. So you encourage and you motivate. All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Hello. Good
Toby Thomas,
afternoon.
go ahead. Good
Okay,
afternoon.
yes, so it enables the employees to be more loyal and more productive. You keep them to do more. So it's like a way of motivating and retaining talent as well. When they see that you appreciate them for a little work done, they tend to put more effort into gaining much more. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have encouragement, we have motivation, we have loyalty, and we have retention. All right. What? Now, the interesting thing about all this is that the only perception of reward that every one of us seem to have is the positive reward. Do you understand? Now, everybody is focusing on positives, right? But do you know that when the first image you showed, we saw performance improvement. Do you know that placing people on performance improvement plan is a form of reward? But that's as a result of low performance. So performance can actually be, a reward can actually also be from the negative perspective, but we don't always want to see that part of it. Everyone you place on performance improvement is because the person has performed below expected standard. Am I right? And you want the person to perform better. That's why you are placing the person on that one. Now, performance improvement plan is different from individual development plan. I guess we have an idea about what those two words mean, right? Because when she showed us the image, let me take us back to that image. You would see image. You will see development. You see improvements. You see corrective. So I'm asking also that we can begin to see the practicality of these things. So when you think reward, don't just think about the positives alone. The negatives can also help with retention, because someone who has performed below standard, when you place the person on a performance improvement plan, what you are doing is you are deliberate about enhancing that person's capacity to be able to do more. So that could also help with retention. It could also help with engagement. But I just wanted you to see that the reward also has, and there are some people, there's a particular company, is it General Electric or so, at the end of every performance evaluation exercise every year, they let go of the bottom 10%. They let them go, and they bring in a new set of people, and it's a practice. And one thing you realize is that they are doing very well, and the people that falls between the lower 10% of their performance appraisal result, they realize that they go to other places and they do very well. But it's the company's philosophy. If you fall within the bottom 10%, we let you go. They pay them off and they go somewhere else and they do better. So you need to understand, because your culture, your philosophy begins to inform a whole lot of how you implement a lot of things. How things are implemented in company A does not mean they must be implemented the same way in company B. Tosin, I don't know if you want to say anything to that.
Yes, very, very on point, very absolutely. So remember that we also mentioned that the culture of the organization also plays a very important role in the organization. And then even if you also think about it also outside of even the culture, the industry in which the organization also operates, right, also impacts on the kind of expectation of performance from that particular organization. So for a very highly regulated industry, right, they're setting measures that the organization cannot go below, and so therefore they cannot, just like you use General Electric, where the 10% are laid off, but then they go to another industry, go to another company, they will do well, and that is because of the standard that has been set in that particular organization and industry. So all of these variables, have a part to play. And as an HR practitioner, that's why you also need to understand what business is my company into, one, what industry is my company in, and what is the expectation of the industry, what is the expectation of my business. And that will then now help you to be able to speak to the issues. I also wanted to speak to the fact that when you talk about negative performance, depending on the management. For example, I think it was Virgin, Richard Branson, I read about at the time, that there was an employee that did not do well, or no, he made a very grievous mistake, and everybody was like, "Oh, we need to sack this employee," and all of that. And the guy was like, "Hey, why should I sack this guy? This guy, his mistake has just cost," let me just give a round figure. Maybe his mistake has just cost the organization, it's cost the organization 30 billion or 30 million, not billion, 30 million, right? Why will I sack? It's like 30 million is on the head of this guy. Why should I sack that organization? Oh, sorry, why should I sack that employee? Because that particular person, even though, yes, what he did, whether erroneously or unintentionally or intentionally, either way, the company lost money, right? Because those are the times when sometimes management would tell you, "Hey, sack this person is not doing well. This person is not performing," and all that. So you as HR, you also have to come with your facts. You have to come with your data, right? To be able to say, "Hey, give the reasons why someone should be still remain in the organization or not in the organization." I thought to add that too.
Thank you very much. It is good for you to share whatever challenges you're having, and I'll tell you why. Tosin has supported companies in different sectors of the economy. I have had the privilege of having gone across different sectors of the economy, both healthcare and the like. So it will be good if there's any challenge, raise it here. Let us discuss it together. You can glean insight from her, then have my own combination, then one or two also contributes to it. But the idea, don't forget that the goal of this class is that at least 70% of you, when you are done with this program, you should be able to really handle an HR function in an organization and handle it well. And when people begin to come and say, "Oh, Tosin, we need 10 HR managers, we can come to this network and say, oh, we have a group of people that are good. And the only way you can be good is when you have questions, ask practical questions, let's address issues, then we can move on. So the floor is open for your questions. Or if you have any contribution as well, just let's hear you.
Hello, sir.
Go ahead, Ogoni.
I don't have a question, but I just want to share my experience in
Go
the
ahead.
banking sector. We use KPI then, yes, and it's a bank, and the targets are based on money now. Get this amount, and to me, when I entered, I was like, this money is too much. It's ridiculous, and they will tell you like, okay, when they give you an amount, like a group of, I was in sales, yes, so they'll tell us when they give you like maybe 500 million, it's not for just you, it's for your group, so they'll divide it, and when they divide it, go the money is still much. And I'm like, why are they doing this? So I went to meet my one of my superiors then, that this money, I don't think anybody can achieve this. They're like, and they know, but maybe an average of 100 million, you can get 50. I said, where do you want to get it from? But I discovered that some people meet this target, not every time, maybe once in a while, this person from this department, from this group, from this. And what I noticed is that whenever this person meets the target, the next month, eh, whatever the person has achieved is forgotten. And if the person didn't meet up this month, maybe the person met up with maybe 80 million then, this month maybe 10 million, they are forgotten about it. So I was like, what's the point of giving people um targets that they can't meet, that is not attainable? So the thing was giving me a lot of pressure then, that I had to just leave, that I can't. And when I left, like, so the burden was lifted. I was like, wow, I'm out of this place. So I was wondering, why would they give people this ridiculous amount? And I've not seen anybody at that time. I didn't see anybody that was able to meet up that target, maybe once in a while. And whatever that person has done is gone for that month. The following month, they are forgotten about the person's achievement. And I didn't like that, honestly. That was what really, really made me just leave. So I was like, why am I meeting up something? And after that, that's the end. I said, that's how banking sector is. So that's what I want to say. Then where I am now, they don't really use KPIs, but they have their own indicators. But what we notice is that after the all said and done, they will still go behind inner room and just, you know, appraise or promote, how would I put it, people that they know or they want to, I don't know, maybe is it mano, I don't know. And it's not encouraging. When you put all your efforts, your ability, your stress, everything into something, and you discover that at the end of it, there's nothing to show forth. So I don't know how, I've been thinking about this every time, but I don't know how to, I can't even approach them. That's the annoying thing. So I don't know how we can help, sir. And thank you.
Okay, my oga at the top. Tosin, over to you.
Okay, let me just try and give some perspective. So when Ogolo was speaking, what I was hearing was some, what I would say, maybe ethical dilemma, right? That you would face as a practitioner or as an HR person within the industry. And believe me, what she's saying, depending on your personality, because that's another thing. For someone else, they wouldn't. This one that she's very passionate for her about it, and then she resigned. Where some would just like, would you just turn another eye and not even really bother, right? So what does that say to you or say to me? Is that you need to, when Coyote was speaking, was saying that this whole performance management thing is about alignment, right? Now, in aligning employees to companies, right, and in aligning companies' values, companies' objectives to employees, right? One silent matter that also is a thread is the issue of values, right? Um, they say values divide, okay? Um, so you may find yourself in an organization, or you will find yourself in your career somehow, somewhere, at some point. You may find yourself in an environment, in an organization where the values of that business, the values of that organization don't necessarily align with yours personally. You have tried your best, you have tried all you could, you've deployed all that you know, right? But yet it doesn't the management, there is no alignment. And what I usually say to people, I have had to do it at one point in my career, right? I just simply move on, right? Because hey, it's not as though I can, especially when you don't have the control, right? And maybe there's no willingness on the part of the management or the people you're working with on the environment. So there's times when you may need to walk away, right? Which is maybe what Ogoluwa had to do in our own instance, and then depend on the level. But hey, also that's one part. The other part is that hey, as you grow in your career a as an HR person, remember that you are also a change champion, right? So if you find yourself in an environment where the policies, the practices and all of that are not in alignment to what we know as best practice and stuff, right? You're supposed to, think about how am I going to bring a change in this environment? How am I going to change the culture of these people? How am I going to create some form of case, a kind of business case to see and to help the management? And really, it's usually about management and HR, right? So how are you going to support and help management to see what you are talking about and to see how aligning with the things that you are sharing would help them. So hey, it's not even sometimes. A lot of times it's not hard and fast, like we have said here. There's a lot of skill and there's a lot of skill that comes with these things over time. So sometimes you have to let go, sometimes you have to stay and be the change manager there and be the change champion and make the necessary corrections that you need to make. At other times, you may have to just step out. At other times, you have to wait it out, right? Depending on your personality, depending on what your mentors have said, depending on what you have, your own personal career plan, and objectives and all of that. So there's a whole number of variables sometimes. So for Golua, it's an experience, and that's my own take. Sometimes it's not a lot of not even sometimes. A lot of times it's not hard and fast. So there's not a right or wrong or hard and fast rule to the matter. Okay, so thank you. You can give your contribution. I know Kayode too has had some similar experiences, and I'm sure he would also share his own thoughts with regards to Ogoluwa's comments.
Thank you very much, Tosin. I just would like to say that, like she said, we're wired up differently and we handle issues differently. For me, I won't see what is unethical. Don't forget she mentioned that word, ethical consideration or ethical issues. And we had a whole class on ethical considerations in HR. There are things that so my point here is, sorry, let me disconnect this speaker. Okay, sorry.
Yes, it's better now.
So my point here is that there are ethical issues and consideration in the performance of your job on a daily basis. anything you also need to pay attention to, please, there's the issue of capacity. There are things you don't have capacity to challenge as of today. All you need to do is to begin to learn how to handle some issues. And the textbook that we sent to you, the Armstrong's textbook, there's a whole section on the number of skills you need to build as an HR person. And those things are not there for the sake of being there. They are there because they are required. Now, when you were talking and you said that they will promote whoever they want to promote, the question just popped up in my head. And the question really is, what role should performance appraiser play or performance management play in employee promotion? Now, let me paint a picture to you. There are some organizations or there are some schools of thought that believes that you don't need to have spent 2-3 years in a company to be promoted. If you perform very well, just promote the person. Even if the person met 20 people there, once the person performs very well, the person can be promoted to become their boss. And there's another school of thought that says that no, promotion should be as a result of longevity in the place. And there's another school of thought where I actually fall that says that, you know what, we can strike a balance in between that. Yes, the person that has done well must have fulfilled the minimum required period, and those who have been there longer and are still performing, still meeting the target should also be given consideration. But sincerely, from your own perspective, what do you think the role of performance management in employee promotion or career development should be? I'm sure you cannot still hear me.
Yes.
So what role do you think performance management should play in employee promotion? Share your thoughts. Tosin will come in. If I have to, I would also say something, but it plays any role. If it does, what role do you think it should play? Go ahead, Ogo.
Not directly, but there was something I read in the book when I was studying. It mentioned maybe 3 elements or 3 components of management or my performance. Yeah. Mention knowledge, skills, and motivation. Knowledge in the sense that person should have an idea of what you're doing. Then the skills, like the right skills. Then motivation, what is which of the knowledge.
We,
But when you are motivated, like reward, or maybe you have a passion for it, you find out that you get the job done. It might not be perfect, but in a way you got the job done. You might not have an idea of the right skills, but in a way, because you wanted to do it, you have something to motivate you. You eventually get the job done. It might not be the way they expected it, or it might not meet the expectation, but you got the job done. So relating it to the question you asked, sir, sometimes I think it varies in different organizations. So there are some organizations that within 3 months, 6 months, they have been appraised and things, they start promoting them. While some people have been there for years, and and everybody knows that they are hardworking, and they say that this person is just there, but they have never. I used to say something that some organization sorry, I'm trying to look for the word, that out of mind is out of sight. Where I work, if you are not close to these people, if you don't have a relationship, you might not be close, but if you don't have a relationship with them, that you don't go to their offices to ask for something, or you don't work with them directly, they might not even see you. So that's the problem I have where I'm working. If you are not working directly with these people, the HR people, they might not I don't want to use consider, they might not even remember you. So I believe it depends on the kind of organization one finds himself. I wanted to my organization last 6 months, before 18 months, if they are promoted, all of them, or more, maybe a batch. While some, even after 2-3 years, they have not even given form of appraisal. So I believe that it depends on what the criteria is for the organization. Sometimes it's not
What's your own recommendation? What do you think it should be?
that whoever is performing well should be rewarded. That's mine. Whether it's coming now or he has been there for years or he's just coming 2 or 3 months, should be rewarded effectively. That's my take, sir.
All right, thank you. If you come in 3 months ago and you've done well, we should promote you. That's our own school of thought. Who else has another opinion, another school of thought? And please provide justification also for that. And you should also think about longevity. You should also think about organizational climate. So because for us as HR people, it's not just about saying this is what should happen. For every decision we make, we know there should be some other actions that will follow every decision we make. So we don't think in a silo. We don't think in isolation, right? We think holistically to be sure that we've covered a lot of ground. So how do you think performance management should be infused into the employee promotion and career progression in an organization? Okay. I think I'll call Elizabeth Olufioye. I will begin to call names. Elizabeth, Oya, over to you.
KKJ, sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts on this thing. Please.
Okay, I'm coming back to you in a few minutes. Thank you. Yes, Susan Omoijade, over to you. Susan. While Susan is trying to unmute, Paul Izikire, what do you say? Paul, I can see you are listening, so you should be able to hear me and say something. Michael Benga, can you hear me? Sorry, can anyone still hear me?
Hello, sir. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I wanted to be sure that I'm not on my own.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Please help me reframe the question again, please.
Okay. How do you think performance management should be infused into the employee development or career progression and promotion in an organization? Your opinion, how do you?
Hello, sir.
Can I say something,
Okay.
sir?
Okay, Nneka, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. So, based on what the last speaker said about her organization, so I believe that if there is a performance management policy in place, which, everybody, the HR knows that, at certain points, maybe it's going to be a bi-monthly appraisal after after about 4 to 6 months of being in the company and performing very well, you get promoted or okay, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Yeah, so like after 4 months or 6 months, you do an appraisal. Either you get promoted, or how is promotion done in the organization? Is it every year or every 2 years? All of this will be put into the policy, and if the HR department follows this through and through, it brings a bit of transparency into the entire process. So it's not like, certain people are being promoted over some other people. So for me, it's basically about transparency and, like they said, putting a structure or a system into the entire process.
Nneka, the question is which. Now, we're all talking about policy, and you realize that almost in all our organizations we have policies, but the question is what are the contents of those policies? One. Then number two, how are we to those policies? But I'm saying that if you are going to develop a policy on employee promotions, let's think about it. What do you think will be the best or a healthy, fairly healthy practice? Let me use the word fairly healthy practice in an organization. Because number one, you need to take into consideration if we say every 3, 4 months or 6 months, somebody who can be promoted. If I get into your organization this month and I come in with my drive and I get fired up and I begin to meet my goals every 6 months, I'll be promoted. In 2 years, I will have been promoted 4 times. What's the implication for hierarchy? What's the implication for organizational structure? Because for every promotion that you give, the person is getting somewhere, right? And there's a level of responsibility that should be passed to the person. So as we think that, yes, the person has performed very well, the person should be promoted. Are we thinking about any other thing about the organization? That, yes, although this person might have met this target for this period, but this person does not have this capacity for this particular thing. Now, I'm just asking, when you play the devil's advocate, right? You just want to look at things holistically so that we don't just solve one problem and create several or myriad of problems. So,
Can I say something?
Finally, Susan is here.
I want to say something.
Susan, please hold on. Michael Benga, we've been waiting for him since Tete. Let him talk. Then Susan will come. Then Zikiri will follow. Benga.
Okay.
Michael Benga. I guess his network is really affecting him. Okay, Susan, please go on.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. You said something about promotion, and I understand where you are coming from, but most times promotion cannot just be, you came in as maybe an admin assistant, for example, then we do an appraiser, and it's time for us to promote you. Then we'll promote you to the next level. Because, I'll use my organization as a case study. Promotion is not something we just do because of the way the organization is. It's a hospital. So if somebody is coming in as an admin, as a front desk officer, and we are saying promotion is done every 6 months, then after the appraisal for the 6 months, they want to promote. What is the next step? Am I promoting the person as from a front desk to maybe admin assistant 2 or to another office? That kind of scenario. So for me, I feel it's not really about the promotion, but it's about maybe salary increment. Before I came into my organization, my boss, the way he does his thing is he increases salary based on longevity, how long the person has stayed. So you can just wake up today and say, this pharmacy technician has been with us for a very long time. Whether the person is growing in his career or whether the person is adding input to anything, that's not his own concern. His own is looking at like this person has been with us for a very long time, so he's loyal. So let's increase the salary. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So that is his mindset, or that's the basis he used for increasing of salary and not just promotion. So for the appraiser stuff, if somebody wants to be promoted or maybe salary has to be increased, most organizations do it yearly. The yearly is not promotion wise. The yearly is salary increment wise. Like when we do the appraisals, we do all the performance and all, and we say first of every year we increase salary. It could be 2% on everybody's salary, or 3% or 5%, but we increase. Then when it comes to those key positions then we talk about promotion, because promotion cannot just be all round. Promotion cannot just be for everybody. So when it comes to key positions, we feel, oh, this person, oh, there's a space here, or there's a lapse here, and this person feels, or this person has been in line with this position. So we feel, oh, let's promote this person. So that's when promotion comes in. So promotion cannot be synonymous to when we do our prayer, this person has to be promoted.
Okay.
All right.
Hello?
Thank you
All
very
right.
much, Susan. We
Good
will
afternoon.
come there later. Please, Paul, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, sir. All right. Okay, so basically, for me, I would prefer a mixture of both length of service and also performance. So the reason why I say I would prefer the mixture is that for length of service, it helps to actually encourage retention, because if you rely on only performance, it means that, like you said, somebody can actually perform very high within a year. He will have achieved everything and then move over to, there will not be any space or any anymore. So I prefer, okay, length of service and also performance to encourage performance. You also need to tie it in. So, for instance, maybe you have stayed 2 years and it's a promotion period. Somebody that spent 1 year, somebody that spent 2 years might be promoted in the same way based on the performance of the person that spent 2 years. Right? So if that person perform very high above the other person, it may see that the percentage of promotion. And also, like your question, you were talking about both promotion and progression. The truth is that, because the thing is that somebody can actually progress career wise. For instance, you can be a principal or as officer, you can be a senior officer, or even a principal manager, and yet not be directly managing the department. That is where we talk about the career progression. It's different from when it's okay, there's a vacant and you're now promoted to head the department. All right, so that career progression is necessary. It's necessary, and that is where we talk about that one is regular. So promotion into an office is only when there is a vacant position. So are you saying that, okay, if there's no vacant position, people are not promoted? So that promotion, that progression, career progression, is there to ensure for people to see that, okay, they are growing career. So even though there's no vacant position to move, but career wise, their title is changing. Career wise, get the promotion. They are climbing the ladder, and also it also affecting their remuneration at the end of the day, right? So, like I said, I prefer the combination of both the length of service and also performance, when you are tying performance to promotion and career progression. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let me just say this so that we all get it right. I deliberately gave those three scenarios because I needed us to think outside the box. But if you have worked long enough and in some kinds of settings, you will realize that promotion can create organization or enterprise-wide problem. And if you don't do it well, what you thought you are doing for the good of somebody or of the system can create tension. For those of us who have worked in the public service or civil service, just denying someone promotion can lead to nationwide strike. And promoting someone can lead to nationwide strike. The union can go on strike because of one decision. So if you find yourself, a lot of us are talking like this because you have not found yourself in a unionized environment. When you begin to find yourself in a unionized environment, you need to begin to rethink things. And I'll say this, then I'll yield to Tosin to give a follow-up input. Number one, we need to know that in our career progression, horizontal expansion, and we have the vertical increments. The vertical is what we the horizontal, we call it expansion. That is why you have in the civil service, you have step adjustments. In the civil service or private sector, you have what we call notches, notch adjustment. And from people that have performed very well, you can give them what I call extended horizontal expansion. What that means, if everybody is supposed to get like that, those expansions are like annual, right? If everybody is supposed to get one step or notch every year, you can now say if anyone that scores between 75 and 80 will get double. Anyone who scores between 81 and 90 will get triple. So everyone knows that that is already clearly spelled out. And when the person performed very well, it is more money. The person gets the step adjustment. It gives the person. But deliberately, your promotion plan must be tied to a set of competencies based on your competency framework for the next position that the person may be promoted to. And what are competencies? You talk about your KSAs, knowledge, skills, and your attributes or attitude or motivations, whatever you call it based on literature. And what you are looking at is, yes, this person may be a good marketer. This person may be a good technical person, but administratively may not be a perfect fit. So for those who have technical competencies but do not have the administrative capacity, if you move them away because they have met their technical goals and you move them into administrative functions, you have positioned them to fail. So be careful even how you implement your promotion. So you rather reward performance monetarily, while you also now begin to, you saw that this person has performed exceptionally well consistently for 2-3 times. You can now begin to say this person is a talent, is someone that we want to put on a succession plan, because not everybody you put on your succession plan. You now begin to deliberately develop that person's capacity to take more, higher responsibility. If you promote someone you have not prepared for a higher position, you will create chaos, you will create confusion. And such people, instead of being motivated, they get promoted and they are frustrated in the process. So that's why I said we need to think about it in an holistic manner, so that we're not promoting people to create problems. I heard of people who were promoted in banks because they were meeting targets, but the promotion created chaos and created tension and enmity. And if there's anything you want to do, you don't want to establish a system that will create a toxic work environment. Toxicity is not a physical thing. It's perceptual and it is circumstantial. It's not something you can lay your hands on, but it's a feeling that people get. And once the feeling is there, it messes up the entire place. So you need to be deliberate in how you implement some of these solutions. Tosin, can we have your take on this?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just have a few thoughts in addition to what you have said, right? And while I think it was next card that was in, just trying to and some of the things and stuff. So I had a few things, right? We talked about the judge, right? Someone comes in and find performance management and how to promote. Then who was it now? Maybe Paul. Was it Paul that spoke, or someone then was talking about career path and all of that? So, and then you then came, Kayode, now began to talk about how the implementation of these things. So, like we have been saying, and we'll continue to say here, right, that the understanding, this whole area of performance management, how it ties to promotion on the job and things like that. There are things that we have to keep in each of our experiences, right? We have to keep learning. We have to keep looking at the context in which we are, which Kayode rightly talked about. If you are in the public sector and if you are trying to implement this thing, it's not the same as if you are in the private. A number of us have spoken around these issues, like we are in the that we're in the private organization. So, but let me just give some specifics that I think we should also be cognizant of. So typically, right, when someone comes in, depending on the organization, but I think maximum in most businesses between 3 to 6 months is the period of probation, right? So in 3 to 6 months, if there's any, what you would call, if you were to think of promotion in the sense, and I put that in quote, if you want to think of promotion, right, within that period, right, it's actually first you want to first of all think of the fact that, hey, this person that you have brought newly into the organization, first, have you come to the place where this person, you have tested him or you have put him on this probation period, you have checked his performance within this period, and then based on good performance during that period of 3 to 6 months, then that person becomes a full staff or a confirmed staff, and then it has certain reward or rights or privileges depending on how that company is structured. So some will see that as the first form of promotion in itself, right? If there is based on performance. In fact, in some organizations, they will literally say there that, hey, your probation is tied to your performance, and then they can review salaries and whatever within that period. So after that initial 3 to 6 months, right, then I'll say, okay, going forward within the number of years that the person spends, if within that business there is a performance management system and there are policies and things in place, right, it then now begins to follow that. You begin to move people based on your performance management structure, along that path, and you begin to structure things accordingly, right? I think also someone spoke about the the same lady that spoke about some in the organization is general increment and specific salary increases. I do not think that general increment is promotion, right? You have just said maybe because of the corporate performance, how the business has done, right? The business has done well in the period, and so you generally increase everybody's salary across the board, right? Everybody, whether the people that did well and people that did not do well. So you cannot necessarily say that is a form of promotion, right? On an individual employee basis, it is probably tied to the overall performance of the business. Okay, and not even too many organizations go that route these days, right? Where they say, hey, they will just increase everybody's salary on that everybody has been promoted. No, that's not promotion. All right. So now, if you were going to then now speak to review of salaries, in practice for most organizations, they usually tie review of salaries to, of course, performance, some form of performance, whether to defined to a degree, and there must be specific things that must have made you say that, hey, this person should be due for this increase in terms of salary specifically now or not. Now, sometimes also those increases in salary may come with review of job roles within a department or unit. And I think someone was talking about career progression, talking about career paths and levels. Kayode also spoke to notches and things like that. So what do we see? What do we, across the board in the discussion so far, what we are bringing out certain practical issues that say, hey, in your performance management, looking at the system entirely, right? You also want to look at tying it to reward. We're also coming to reward now. In tying it to reward, what will be the reason or the basis for you moving X person to X level or giving X reward, as agreed by the team or the management team of the organization. So it's a whole lot of structuring, thinking through, and determining based on the different contexts or any context that you find yourself in as a practitioner. But like we have said, it's important that you are clear about these things. If you're in your organization, certain things are not currently in place, right? You may want, and that's the beauty of learning. So as you learn, you want to go back and check your context, do some research, and see what improvements you can bring on or suggestions that you can make to management to improve the entire performance management system. Okay, thank you, Kayode.
Nagode, thank you very, very much. But if there's anything you need to take away from here, she brought another dimension of salary review to it. And you see, for annual step adjustments, well, I have had the privilege of having to push for it everywhere I'd worked, where they never had it. And this is the idea behind it. Annual step adjustments, or what they call annual increment, it's not a salary review as it were. It's just a record. It's provision for inflationary variations over time. And there are organizations that have it that every year you move one notch up. But when it comes to your performance, when you do well your performance, instead of moving one notch, you move 2-3 notches. And that shows that, oh, okay, the people who have moved 2-3 notches, it's to recognize that they have performed very well at that point. But we also know in practice that there are some people that are good technicians, but they are never good managers. So when you make the mistake of promoting a good technician to become a people manager, you have frustrated the technician because he will never be able to meet that. So the question is, when you have people who do not have capacity to go into a particular cadre that is above them, how do you keep appreciating them to still keep them in the system? That's why it gets to a point, people know that beyond this particular level, technical skills can't take you beyond this particular level. And like we've been saying, those things will be clearly spelled out. For example, in the health sector, it doesn't matter how good the general practitioner is, he can never be a consultant. Neither can he be a specialist because he doesn't have the training to be. What does it take to be a specialist? He must have done the first stage of residency program. For him to become a consultant, he must have passed the second stage and must have done his project and must have become a fellow of the relevant colleges, either Nigerian college or the West African college. That's how it is in healthcare. So in other fields as well, there are some people, they are good HR generalists. You bring them to strategic HR functions, they begin to just mess up. They just think like a generalist. A generalist is more of an operations person. A generalist does not want to get his head bogged up around some strategic issues. You're wasting too much time at meetings. The guy just wants to hit the ground running. He wants to administer the thing. Once you begin to know people's capacity, design your system that in a way that it's able to accommodate different categories of people in your staff. Everybody will not always be a 95% performance appraiser performer. No, there will be some people, if the minimum standard is 70, there are some people, they will just be meeting up your 70 for you. And if you know about the DISC analysis, and I'm sure Tosin is a specialist in that area, you know that there are some people, they are just steady supporters. You have the steady supporters, you have your compliant controllers. Those people just want to maintain the ground. Just tell them. Then you have very few people are the dominant people, the dominant directors who just wants to push. And so when you begin to understand how people are wired up and their capacities, begin to help them a little bit. But I want you to know, like we've all said in previous classes, HR is so dynamic that you can't say because what I am handling is just learning and development, I have no business with comp and ben, or I have no business with performance management, because somehow they are interwoven. The output of performance appraisal becomes an input to learning and development process. So you realize that somehow the output of one is an input into another, and the output of the next one becomes an input to another one. So you must be vast about different areas of HR and how they are connected. That's the only way you make decisions that takes into consideration a whole lot of things. And it's only at that point you can begin to take up managerial roles, because you are able to think holistically and you're not just thinking in silo. And I do hope that Tosin has been able to challenge you in the area of performance management. She's been able to bring a strategic dimension and got a bit operational. But you see, how you now operationalize it will be determined a lot on your uniqueness, your creativity, and your innovation. And should you require any support, don't hesitate to reach out to us. If we need to reach out to Tosin again, we'll reach out. She herself and her husband have been my mentor for quite some years, and we've been very good friends. We trouble ourselves, and it's been a wonderful relationship we've had. And so we are encouraging you, please study those materials. These things we are talking about, there are theoretical frameworks, there are principles, there are ideologies to them. When you understand these principles and ideologies, it becomes very easy for you to begin to think about some things and you see how things are connected. Sammy, you want to say something? Okay, I guess we just unmuted. So, do we have any other question? You have a question. It may not even be based on performance management, but you have a work-related question or work-related challenge that you do.
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
I'm asking a question based on what I'm actually facing in my organization right now. I work in a club, and it always happens that if the people who are on ground, no matter the efforts they put in to make the work get done, at the end of everything, you just see that they employed somebody ahead of that person. And maybe when they employ the person, what you'll be experiencing next is to train the person again on how this thing can be done. And it has been happening over and over and over again. Now, what measure can someone put in place? Even despite this is what I put to myself, is like, I'm not working based on because of they brought somebody. I just wanted to work to make sure that I got my job done and then move on with other things that I'm doing. So, but there is no how it will tell on your body that so something is going on. And it happens not even only in my department, it happens in some of our departments that these are they do it. They just employ somebody, and at the end of everything, we just discover that we are still be the one to train this person on the process of this job. That is exactly what happened. And something happened recently in my office too, that I want you to give me a professional idea about it. Like, there are two people having a misunderstanding, like argument, like exchanging words, and one of them have to like slap the other person. And what I'm telling you right now, both of them went on suspension. I was thinking that, but based on our bylaw, it doesn't state it that way. We're having an argument of exchange of words, and one of them slapped the other one, and what we could see that both of them serve the same punishment. So I don't really understand how is it going like that. Or is there any way around the HR that they can just think about doing it? I don't even know if you understand my questions.
I do, but I would.
Before you answer the question, I'm still on the standby. I still have a question to ask. I was responding the other time, but nobody was hearing me.
Okay, don't worry. Let Tosin respond to this. We have you again, Sammy. Tosin, what do you say to this matter?
This is your area.
I tell you the truth. I don't care of the argument. The person that slapped gets dismissed.
One time now.
It's an assault. It's criminal. See, the person that was slapped could have been the person that was at fault. The moment someone else could lift his hand and hit another person, it's an assault. It's a criminal case. Yeah. No obligation to condone it in any way. I don't care how important you are. Then, now worsen the whole matter. The slapper and the slappee were now giving the same. No, it's wrong. Go back to your policy and look at your policy. If your
Yes,
policy
sir.
does not capture this, please review it.
Yes, sir. I checked the policy because I do like to read the policy. I checked the policy and I discovered that the person who raised hand needs to be dismissed. And
End of discussion.
so I don't understand why that the person who is and the person who received the slap have to go on suspension, the same punishments. So we're just like questioning that why is this always happening like this? The same thing when it comes to issue of promotion and employment. It comes to the point where we don't understand what is it going to. That is why I want to. It's one of the reasons why I decided to join this class. Like I must join and I must study very well. So it's baffled me is that okay, when they want to employ somebody, they will, according to the rules of the club, it says that based on performance, they are going to checkmate the person. And when they discover that based on the performance, they are not pleased enough, they will employ someone and they will not put them on checkmates to check if any of them is qualified to be in that position. It's not working that way in this system. They just told me your might be like be my next position to be. I'm working towards it. The next you just see that somebody is there. And the most painful part of it is that you will not be the one to train the person to understand some things about the system.
That one is normal. That one is in every organization. You employ someone, it is people on ground that trains the person. But let me say this. You made a statement earlier when you were talking. Please change that statement. You are not just working. Remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Everybody desires to grow.
Okay.
No matter how much you love your job, everybody desires to grow. The way you feel, the reason you feel bad is because you feel you have the capacity, or you should have been given the opportunity to go higher. But can I shock you in this our Nigeria, and it is very prevalent in the back. If you want to really gain promotion, you can't stay long in an organization. Jumping ship is the only guarantee that you can truly grow in your job in this Nigeria. In Nigeria, the longer you stay in an organization, the more they get so familiar with you. You always employ people higher than you. So I'll say to you straight, you built your capacity, you know you could have done more. They brought someone from outside. There's nothing you can do about it. The best thing you can do is to begin to look for higher responsibility somewhere where you can put to use what you know and be on the lookout. I say to people, when I conduct interviews, I say this. I say that the organization is not employing you because the organization likes you. I am conducting interview and I am recommending you for employment because I see value in you. And because I see value in you, the organization is willing to exchange value for value. The payment the organization is for the value that we believe they are bringing in. So you need to pay attention to that. So please, it doesn't matter if you bring in a senior executive, put him through a couple of things in the organization. And the reason is simply because there are things about the organization that the person would know, and the person needs to get seamlessly assimilated and acclimatized into that organization. And most times, it is a junior staff that will need to guide in one way or the other of the person to settle down. It's a normal thing. If you leave your organization today and go to another organization, no matter how good the handover note is, somebody will still need to be able to, you will still ask some question. It's normal. But the most important thing is when you begin to feel that you are not appreciated, that there's no room for growth, you move. Because you need to look for opportunities for growth for yourself. I worked for 11 years. I literally was not moving. Then I jumped ship. And in 6 months, I moved from one level to another level. And I jumped ship again, and I moved again. Do you understand? If you don't begin to look beyond you, you may not deliver your value. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Sammy, your question, and I think that will be we'll be rounding off very soon. Sammy.
So, Mr. Kayode.
Okay. Toby,
Can you hear me,
please
sir?
go ahead.
I think it's my network. Can you hear me?
Sammy.
Okay.
Okay, Toby Thomas, please hold on. Sammy, go ahead.
Hello,
Okay,
can you
he's
hear me,
out
sir?
again.
No, I'm here. I'm back. I'm
Okay,
back.
please go ahead, Sammy.
Okay, so my question now is this, sir. So my question, right? There's this argument I've been on with some set of HR people, right? So PBP, which is performance-based pay, it's part of a system, like it's part of their gross. It's a component that is part of their entire gross. And to an extent, we're arguing if it should be part or it should not be part. And they do this on a quarterly basis to a point in time whereby some people don't even get this thing. All right, so I want to really get this clearly. Performance-based pay, is it supposed to be part of the component that makes up the entire gross for an employee, sir?
Okay,
I don't know if my
let's
question is
Tosin
clear.
respond to that. Yes, we understand. Should performance-based pay be part of your gross or not?
Yes. Or it should be an additional benefit or commission you enjoy for overperforming.
All right.
Okay.
Because they made the
First of
content
all,
of growth whereby they do every month and it just distribute paid on a quarterly basis. But guess this thing. So in the first place, performance is supposed to be part of gross component or an additional staff should even earn in the first place.
Don't worry. Let Tosin respond. Don't worry.
Okay, so in practice, right, I have heard this argument also, where in some organizations ahead of time, right, they would have put a bench to say that for your annual, this is what you're going to be earning annually, and then a percentage of that gross is what comes to you based on performance, right? But it only comes when you actually meet the expectation or the standards, or the standards of performance set in place for the for the employee. But outrightly, they would have stated it that, hey, if you meet certain criteria, then you are expected to get. So now, the part that I'm not sure I get in Sam's question is that whether the person meets that employee, meets that performance target or not, is then paid quarterly. That is the
He
part I
said,
don't quite understand.
he said the money has not mostly been paid.
Okay, the money has not both been. The question is, has the performance been attained?
Okay, so Sammy, has the person fulfilled the performance requirement? I guess.
Because if that is because if it is a performance based whatever, the person's gross is there. The person is being whatever you are paid your money every month, right? But he then asks, okay, if you attain X amount, then an X percentage is given. So if it's not given, maybe you should just simply go and check. Is the person attaining the performance? If the person is not attaining the performance, right, then there will be no basis for paying. Or it could be also that the person is attending the performance and then maybe for any reason the organization has changed the goal post in the middle of the game. So
Okay,
different possible.
I guess that balances it out, and I
Yeah.
agree with you that number one, you can't get me to sign a performance-based contract if I don't already first know the performance you are putting me on before I sign that contract. That's number one, because if the contract is going to have any performance-based component in my pay, then I need to be clear on what the performance target is. So that's one. So that when I'm not fulfilling the minimum requirement, I know I shouldn't expect the money. But there are also organizations where these people meet these targets and they are not paid. And there are organizations that specifically will not set any targets because they don't want to pay that part of it. They just wanted to get the person into the organization or in the beginning. Everything still comes back to the HR table, right? Because there are legal and ethical implications to all these things. And there is implication for negative employer branding. There are organizations that when people I've worked in one organization that anybody that calls me to say that organization, I say don't go there. Do you understand? And the reason is simple. Even as a management staff, then I had my own experience. So I said, except you are willing to endure a lot of heartache, go. But if you are not ready to endure a lot of heartache, don't go there. And that's based on my own experience, as it were. So the most important thing is, if the person is placed on a performance-based pay, a component of the pay is based on, is the person fulfilling the minimum required performance, one. Then number two, if the person does, why does the organization not pay? And if there was no performance set for the person, automatically the organization is positioning the person never to get that money. So that's where HR needs to now begin to ask questions, because at the beginning you are the one issuing the contract in the first place. So you should be asking about these performances. I once employed a consultant, orthopedic surgeon, consultant general surgeon. Before he came in, we set it very clear. We expect you to perform this minimum number of surgeries per month. Anything above this number of surgeries per month, we give you this percentage of the surgical fee. As in, we were specific. And we will pay it quarterly. So the guy earnestly looked forward to the next quarter of payments. And when it's coming and anybody is to be advised, HR will ask for details from the clinical director to say, can you provide evidence that this person, can we see? And of course, from the finance end too, you can also see. And once you see that the person fulfilled it, the payment is processed. It has to be a deliberate and a very simple and transparent process. But anything out of that is unethical and it's unacceptable. And you need to look for what you know to be ethically correct. It's not whether you like the person or not. Whether you like the person or not is not an issue. It's nobody's business. All that we care about is it ethically right and correct? If it is, then speak up for it. And I guess that would set.
I think the main challenge. I think the main challenge, just to wrap up what you said, I think the main challenge is a lot of times we HR people are not willing to query or question management, and they just tell us to do things and we just go ahead and do it. And then when the employee comes back to us, then we now start saying that it's the management that, no. If HR begins to see itself as management, and that's the thing, I think another thing, we need to see ourselves as management, right? And not just be alone thinking from the employee. And remember today we talked about the corporate performance and the employee performance. So you need to start seeing yourself not only from the employee performance manager, but from the corporate performance manager, because for example, in this performance related stuff now that Sammy brought up, if you don't know the percentage, you don't know if you don't understand reward issues and what finance will come and tell you is percentage of what are you giving as a target to the person. If you don't know those numbers, there's no how that you're going to be able to defend or really support the employee to ensure that they get what they're supposed to get when they do what they're supposed to do. Do we understand? So we must have all those competencies in our toolkit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess it's been a wonderful time. I've dropped the link for today's attendance on your respective groups. Please go back and study. Of course, I'll be releasing the case study for this week again for you to look at and submit as required. However, it's not just about talking, right? It's about us being able to do. So when you get stuck at some point, ask questions. But I believe do it if you put your mind to it. And at some point, yes, you could get your fingers burnt. Don't worry, it's part of learning. And at some point, you start and you can lose your job. Unfortunately, we're always afraid to lose our jobs. Well, I can't blame you, but me, I've never had any issue about letting go. I've had to walk away from several jobs because it will adapt at this particular stage in my career. I just know that certain things I can't just condone certain things anyhow again. So I just want us to pay attention to that and open up your mind. Elizabeth Olufioye, we have not heard you. You are still putting your thoughts together. Before this, we end this class in 5 minutes.
KKJ, what do you want me to say? I'm listening.
Let's hear your voice now. I know I must hear your voice today now.
We've all said a lot today, actually, because I'm trying to, like, everything that was said today, I'm trying to play it in my head, in my own organization, how it works. Because for performance management, prior to now, before I joined HR, I've always assumed that performance management was just basic.
Sorry, can anyone still hear Elizabeth?
Gone.
I guess it's our network.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, if you can still hear us, we can't hear you. I guess she's out. She will come back in.
Sorry, a call came in. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so it's a whole lot. It's a system, and with all the discussion, honestly, KKJ, I'm going to come back to you on that performance part in the what's it called, the one that you talked about, the steps when it comes to promotion. So it's something I even thought of over the week that I wanted to discuss with you. So definitely, I'll come back to you this new week so that we can discuss further. So thank you, Tosin. It was a wonderful section. I learned a lot.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, let's appreciate my friend and sister and my trouble buddy, Miss Tosin Alexander-Idowu. She's my teacher as well. And it's been a wonderful time having you in our midst this afternoon. Thank you very much for your insights and for teaching us from the abundance of your deposit. We really appreciate you. And God
Thank
bless
you.
you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're sure we'll still see more of you in subsequent cohorts. And maybe by then, one or two people on this call would be part of those who are also training. Because the plan also is, and you know, we've discussed about this together to Tosin. This has been our burden for some years, raising the next generation of professionals. And we don't just want to raise operational people. We also want to raise people that will begin to raise other people. So begin to create a network. And for those of you who have had some years of experience but are not CIPM certified, I had a conversation with the director of membership during the week. The conference just ended, so I will be talking to him to see how we can literally bring a couple of us on board the practitioner's route if you meet the minimum requirement. So please, let's just keep that one open, and everything will surely work out very well. Thank you for coming to class today. For me, it's been a wonderful experience. You know, it's just like yesterday when we had our first week. To now think that today is week 9, it's interesting, and we have just 4 interesting, and I just wait to see what comes and to begin to see you do exploits out there, and we're able to, those are some of the people that were program, and we can all begin to we need to change the employment landscape in Nigeria, and we all need to go out there and begin ruffle feathers in the right. And by the time they employ 10 of us and they realize that the 10 of us hold on to the same ethical standards, then they begin to understand that, okay, HR is no longer what they used to think it was. Now HR is changing, and then we can make it, make people, because people feel that they can bring anybody to do HR. So we need to begin to show them the value that we have to offer. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week. Don't forget to sign the form for today. Enjoy your week. You get the case study within the hour. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Sir.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you,
you,
Mr.
sir.
Kayode.